Hello, hello. Can I be heard? Hello, hello.
It's good.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Everything's good now. Thank you.
I'm good. How are you? I'm good.
Did my sound go off?
No, we can
Okay.
hear you.
You can hear me okay? I can see you guys too. Thank you.
So you can put yourself on mute.
I beg your pardon. No problem.
Is Dr. John?
I don't know. I sent him a text and asking him for his ETA. I can certainly give him a quick call if you like. Proceed.
Yeah. We'll proceed when he joins. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
4:03 p.m. So Director Perezio,
Here.
Director Shore,
Yes,
Director Delara,
Here.
Director Lobson, Secretary Baraza. Here. Vice President Rodriguez. Here. And President Rogers.
Here. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Have approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. At this time, we have public comment. Comment from the audience may be made on items not listed on the agenda that are of public interest and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district. The board has a policy of limiting speakers to no more than 3 minutes. The board cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda. Public input may be offered on an agenda item when they come up for discussion and or action. Do you have any public comments?
We do. We have several public comments that were submitted via email. And that's starting with, my name is Steve Sanchez. I have lived in Coachella Valley for over 20 years. I currently serve as a council member for the city of La Quinta. I served in the United States Marines. I live by the Constitution and appreciate the democratic process we are privileged to have in America. Measure AA successfully passed a public vote in November 2024 with over 72% of the voters in favor of the lease purchase agreement to continue operations of Desert Regional Medical Center by tenant well into the future. The public decided the outcome with 120,000 voters in support of Measure AA. Thank you for allowing this important issue to go to the public for a vote. Moreover, thank you for your decision to have Superior Court validate the agreement with tenant. I understand that the purpose of the validation is to eliminate uncertainty and confirm the legality of actions such as a public agency's issuance of bonds or validating contracts entered into by a public agency. What is difficult to understand is why Eisenhower would challenge the outcome of Measure AA because they lost. They voiced their opinion of the ballot measure during the campaign, but the voters made their choice. Eisenhower's frivolous, expensive legal action is a desperate attempt to sabotage the will of the people. It's a slap in the face to the voters and democracy. It's anti-democratic. The money they are wasting should be redirected to care for the underserved in our community, the ones who really need it. And that is from Steve Sanchez. He is a La Quinta resident and a city council member. We also have a letter from Morongo Basin Healthcare District. Morongo Basin Healthcare District Board of Directors wishes to state their support of Desert Healthcare District regarding the validation of the new lease agreement with Tenet Healthcare. In the spring of 2024, we participated in the public forum that resulted in the voters approving a new 30-year lease with Tenet Health for Desert Regional Medical Center. We thank you for your leadership in seeking a validation action to ensure that the lease agreement and the will of the voters stand. We are greatly disheartened that Eisenhower Medical Center is wasting valuable resources in trying to thwart the standard validation process when such validation provides long-term financial certainty and the continued provision of care services to the communities of Coachella Valley. The agreement ensures the Desert Healthcare District does not need to raise nearly $220 million to complete the required seismic retrofitting of Desert Regional Medical Center, and thereby also ensures the continued critical funding for local nonprofits that you support. It seems to us worthwhile to seek such financial certainty considering the potential federal and state cuts to safety net programs. Morongo Basin Healthcare District leases the High Desert Medical Center to Tenet Healthcare and is also a partner in the Desert Care Network. Their success with Tenet Healthcare in the Coachella Valley is directly tied to our success in ensuring the residents of the Morongo Basin continue to have access to critical healthcare needs. Our board of directors is committed to honoring the will of the people we represent. We firmly respect and support your commitment to the same. Respectfully submitted on behalf of the board of directors, and that's from Misty Evans. She on the board of directors. So we have a couple public comments for the foundation, but I'm not sure if you would like to wait until the foundation.
Let's wait for that. Wait for the foundation comments. Is that?
So I think that is, at least those are the comments that we received via email, and there are no other public comments online.
Are there any public comments from people attending? Hearing none, let's go to the consent agenda.
Before we have, is it okay if we have Alejandro translate about the public comments?
Can I get a copy?
I'll do it then, I'll do it. Esta es la oportunidad para los miembros del público para darnos información. Si tienen preguntas o tienen algo para comunicarse en en un tema que no está en la agenda, que no está en la agenda. Si usted tiene algo para compartir o preguntar o traer a nuestra atención, esta es la oportunidad para usted para hacer esto. Si tiene un comentario, tiene 3 minutos para poder hacer este comentario.
Gracias.
She has a comment.
Hay 3 de nosotras que queremos.
Ok, tiene 3 minutos cada uno para hacer su comentario.
They're going to do it under the foundation.
Oh, is
Uh-huh. I think those are the ones
okay,
that Andrea
okay,
mentioned.
okay. Vamos a hacer esta parte en la siguiente parte. Tenemos 2 juntas, una es para el distrito, la otra es para la foundation. Cuando terminamos la junta para el distrito, vamos a seguir para la siguiente junta.
Vamos a estar 1 hora.
Yo creo que sí.
Más o menos.
Ojalá que sea más pronto.
Que no sea más.
Okay, está bien, gracias. Okay, thank you.
President Rogers, we have one last email from Fred Bale, the Chief Operating Officer at NC Bale Energy Solutions. My name is Fred Bale, and I have been a Valley resident from the time I was a child attending elementary school in Palm Springs. I provided public comment during the Measure AA campaign, sharing both my personal experience and experiences my family members have had with an outstanding care received at Desert Regional Medical Center. As I stated at the time, Desert Regional saved my life, and I'm grateful to have a hospital that I can count on to care for me, my family, and my grandchildren. They have given me a chance to see grandchildren I would have never known. As far as my testimony, I strongly advocated and supported Measure A. Passing of the ballot measure with over 72% of the voters is a testament to our democratic process. Thank you for allowing the residents of the district to make their decision for the future of healthcare in our valley. And as process allows, your choice to seek a validation action to ensure that the lease purchase agreement and the will of the voter stands in both responsible and commendable. Learning, however, that Eisenhower Medical Center is wasting valuable resources in trying to thwart this standard validation process through legal action, disappointing and quite like the rest of us, they had their say during the campaign. Their legal action indicates that they clearly have not accepted the results of the election. The validation process will provide long-term certainty and ensure that the district does not need to raise nearly $220 million to complete the required staggered retrofitting of Desert Regional, thereby taking away critical funding for local nonprofits that do work in our community. And lastly, he says, I'm offering my continued support for the important and successful public-private partnership between Desert Healthcare District and Desert Regional Medical Center. We simply don't need Eisenhower inserting themselves with legal action when the future of healthcare is in our valley should be the priority. And again, that's Fred Bale, COO of NC Bale Energy Solutions. And I believe that concludes all of our public comments that were received.
Jeff, I have a question for you. It's not a comment on the public comment. Is it helpful to submit these letters of support to the court?
No, I don't.
Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't make any difference.
Thank you. On to the consent agenda. I would like to pull OP 15 and number 7 from the agenda just for discussion.
OP 15 is not part of the consent, is it? Can we just clarify what is part of the consent?
It's under
means-
policy.
I think she means E5G.
Policy of the
Oh, okay.
15.
So it's the consent
allowed to
agenda just for 1 to 7 is consent, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time, President Rogers, please?
OP 15 and number 7 on the agenda, just for discussion.
Can I pull,
So just one more, so E5G and E7. And that's A and B?
Yes.
Thank you.
And what would you like to pull?
I would like to pull item 3, the budget, just to get a quick overview of what are some of the forecasts and anything that, I didn't like that, I'm sorry. But just any, just kind of the outlook for what the economic conditions are that you are using to do your analysis or your recommendation for the budget. I know there's a lot of concern about what's going on out there, but I just wanted to share a little bit about what we talked about at our committee. So at that time, just if we can just cover some of those points.
Great. Anything else? All right, let's start with the budget. That's going to be the most comprehensive.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, you could go ahead and vote on the rest
Oh,
and then go specifically to the items.
All right. may I have a motion to vote on the rest of the consent items?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Budget is number 3 on the consent agenda.
If I could just kind of bring this picture is what I was looking for is that what we learned in our committee was the fact that the economic conditions for our community are actually favorable. The property tax values are continuing to go up. The investments are a little bit uncertain, but still we haven't been hurt from them. So things are still going in the right direction. We have a good outlook for future. We are still budgeting very conservatively, continuing to use that same practice that we used up until now. And so, and a lot of the decisions that will be made for future funding will come after our strategic planning session and the work the board's going to be doing in the next few months or next year. So, and if you want to add some more to that.
No, I think that pretty well summarizes, the optimism of our with conservativeness in our annual budget. So you indicated property taxes are good, uncertainty about investments, but still not concerned about negative issues with it. And we're projecting a net income of about $3 million for the year, and that includes a budget of $5 million for grant funding. Obviously, that can be considered differently as we go through our strategic planning process and define what we're looking at going forward. So, but we wanted to be, with what we know today is what we're projecting in our annual budget.
Just a couple comments. I would say that this year they've done a great job being fiscally conservative. We got elections this year. That's an unknown expense, and we've still maintained a positive income. So I think the staff and the board has done a great job managing the money. I think they're stewarding the money very well. We've been supporting the community on the prior objectives. And I think the budget that we have outlaid for next year also shows fiscal conservatism, shows us still meeting our needs in the community. And we're still beginning to plan for much bigger things in the future as we go towards, I think, this planning session that we're all looking forward to. So I commend you guys for how you've been operating this.
Thank you.
Can I ask, is there any, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. Do you do any forecasting of like completed construction that affects the budget?
Say completed.
So say
construction.
numerous housing projects that are under development right now. Is there any calculation? Not, so it's not until they're on the tax roll.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we put in like a reasonable increase from the current year. So I forget if we have a 3 or 4%.
4% increase over what we project to be our actual receipts for this fiscal year.
So that's anticipating, the new homes that are coming online and property values. Don't know if they'll increase or not, over the next year or two, but I think they're holding fairly well. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of new projects coming on in La Quinta. There's about another 800 homes that are gonna come on. None of that's, it's hard to forecast that
Yeah.
because there's been energy issues, but I think the way we've been budgeting it has been very, very conservative. So I think everything that you see there, it can only be better.
And one thing to keep in mind that our property taxes come from residents west of Cook Street.
That's
So anything east of Cook Street that may not benefit from property tax. So
Any more comments?
Just to clarify that residents east of Cook Street are paying, but they're not attributed to
Correct.
the health.
correct. Yeah, not to discredit, everybody pays the same 1+%. It's just the allocation from the county that's different.
Were the COLA increases part of the budget process?
No,
The next,
they are part of a policy that we're recommending some for discussion and possible action. For, whenever the
from the
board
finance
decides.
committee?
Yes.
Okay, great. Any more discussion? Shall we approve the budget?
I move approval of the budget.
A second.
Director Perezkill,
Yes.
Director Shore,
Yes.
Director Delara,
Yes.
Director Logston.
Yes.
Secretary Baraza,
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez.
Yes.
And President Rogers.
Yes.
If I may, Madam President, I just also want to echo board member Logston's comments. The budget was actually presented to the committee as a proposal that we were going to look at and make some changes possibly, and then bring it back in June. But staff did such a good job, very thorough job, that we moved it 1 month early. So thank you, staff, for making this easy.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Good point. Okay, on to number 7, conferences. American Public Health Association and Annual National Association of Latino Officials. I was just going to comment over the fact that not only elected officials were, that staff is planning on attending APHA because that was part of the budget. But I think that might be valuable for us directors to attend also. And I have attended several APHA meetings in the past, and I would like to attend as well, if that could be possible. Okay. If anybody else interested in attending those. There we go. Okay.
Did we-
Could we just get a motion when you approve that item to include the directors?
Can we limit the number that can go?
No, there's no limit.
Oh.
So,
I'd like to go too.
great. All right. So it looks like several of us, do we need to add the names to the list of
Yeah,
attendees?
Andrea can do that. The important thing is that you have to invite all of the members. It can't be just some. And then we just follow our policy, which is to bring it to you beforehand. So if you just have a motion to that effect, we're good.
All right. Any more discussion? May I have a motion to approve inviting directors to the APHA meeting as well, and any others that may want to attend the Latino Elected Officials Conference?
So
Latina. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, just to be clear, that also includes item 7B.
right,
Yes.
I make the motion.
Sorry.
And for discussion, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, just for clarification, the 42nd Annual National Association of Latino Electeds, when I attended this a couple of years ago, this was not restricted to Latinos, okay? So this is open to everyone.
Yeah.
Anyone, there's a benefit to learning about what are national issues, and so I just want to make that clear.
That was my point. The directors could attend
Yes.
it, not just.
And could we have, before we take a vote, have public comment, and anybody in the audience that wants to comment on this?
Is there any public comment about the consent agenda items? Hearing none.
And we wanted to present, these types of things coming through the board so that it's transparent so the board is aware of it, and like you're saying, if you want to include the directors to all directors to participate, then that way it's, you know, it's all there. Everybody's available to go if they choose to, and it's not selective in who's attending these events.
And staff. Great. May I have a roll call, please?
And this is for both items, it's like.
Yeah. 7A and B.
Thank you. Director Perezfield.
Yes.
Director Shore.
Yes.
Director Delara.
Yes.
Director Loxton.
Yes.
Secretary Baraza.
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez.
Yes.
And President Rogers.
Yes. Okay, on to reports. We have
Actually, not
OP 15.
G,
the field.
the engagement.
OP 15.
The OP.
Oh, I'm sorry, OP 15. Yes, a discussion there for the policy committee. There in the minutes, it shows that I presented the committee members a proposal to establish a volunteer auxiliary for the district and foundation. And I would like to include that in the minutes.
Are you proposing adding that to the policy?
No.
Oh,
Just
okay.
having.
Having it
document-
clarified in them, okay.
Having the documents as part of the committee's meeting minutes.
Okay, so we can address that then when we come to the committee meeting for the minutes that you're requesting language change in
Yes,
the
we can.
committees. Okay.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve OP 15?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
I should do a roll call. President Rogers, please.
Everything has to be a roll call.
And public comment.
Roll call, please.
Director Perezfield.
Yes.
Director Shore.
Yes.
Director Delara.
Yes.
Director Loxton.
Yes.
Secretary Baraza.
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez.
Yes.
And President Rogers.
Yes. Now, Desert Regional Medical Center CEO report. So are you going to introduce the talent show?
I'm not. Good afternoon, everybody. Celebrating Hospital Week, we had a talent show at the end of it. One of our chaplains sang with amazing talent at DRMC. So the folks put a nice event together, a nice week to celebrate the hospital and recognize all of our healthcare workers. And that ended on Friday. And then we had quite the day on Saturday, as you all are aware of what happened in the community. So this was a difficult past week for us at the facility. You all can imagine the folks that were on site when this happened were scared. And I would just like to highlight a massive, sincere appreciation to our staff that displayed the courage and strength to stay at the facility, dedication to the patients, care for the patients that were in the facility, those that were injured from that tragic event that happened, and just really humbled by what we do every day is with that commitment to the community. The facility, the hospital itself did not take much damage. We had some broken windows, but really nothing major. The majority of the damage to the campus was in both our Sturgios building and then the El Mirador building. We had a lot of glass damage, a lot of glass was blown out from the power of the explosion. Our teams, very quickly, as soon as we had access to that building, it was a crime scene for 24 hours. When we were able to get in there on Sunday, we did our full assessment, glass replacement, repairs to the ORs and the ambulatory surgery center started immediately. And we are getting to the point where we're just about done with all of our repairs. So truly remarkable work by our recovery teams, and just want to give a shout out to that. So again, it was a difficult weekend, but I think we come through it strong, and just again, very, very impressed by everything that everybody does in that facility. On the people side, I'm not going to go into all the items, but just wanted to highlight this past month, we had a research symposium that was participated by a lot of the residents in our various programs. We had 24 different medical residents that participated with research posters, and some of the attendings really It highlights some of the amazing things that we do at the hospital and care we provide for our patients. I listed the first, second, and third place winners, but really, really nice and shows a lot of the great work that happens in the organization. From a services media event, we had planned pre-event that happened a couple weekends to celebrate our EMS. So we had a really great turnout last week and really timely with what had happened the weekend before. But to highlight and honor some really amazing rescues that the EMS providers had in this community and brought back some actual patients and family members that were rescued by EMS. They got to see the teams that cared for them at the hospital. It really shows that collaboration and what some of these frontline workers do in the community. And then we did take the opportunity to recognize the assistant fire chief from PSFD that went in and saved the embryos. And we provided nice certificates for everybody, and it was really a heartwarming event for those that attended. And then lastly, just some of our capital improvements continue. We have 2 of our ORs left. We're in one of the final 2, placing all the lights and doing the upgrades in that room. And we finally started on Monday last week our elevator project. So we're excited to get those going and replaced. Any questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Langston.
One comment and then 2 questions. One, I think the Sheriff's Department of Riverside County did an excellent job responding along with the FBI. I have some friends in that department over there, and hearing what they were able to do to secure that crime scene and make sure it was safe. It's pretty amazing how quickly they responded. So that's 1. 2, questions for you. Was an emergency response system used for hospital employees to communicate this going on at the time?
We opened our incident command. We communicated with the front line. We had our leaders that responded to incident command and were routed throughout the organization. It's more than just those 2, more than just FBI, Riverside. We had all the locals that were there.
For sure.
We had PSPD, PSFD. They brought in a lot of the jurisdictions from the other towns as well. So it
We
was
did a great job.
a massive event. And what really was some of the most challenging for us was the road closures that impacted the main entries to the hospital. So we had to work with those various jurisdictions, including the county, on how we rerouted patients in through the east side of the campus, because the west side is what was really shut down, west and south facing side.
So what system was used to communicate to everybody?
We use our tenant alerts. So we sent some of that. It's like another bridge. So we sent some communication out.
And that's to
we
all
also-
hospital employees that were
Yeah.
there? I think that's great. And then what about community? Was the community in that surrounding area notified? I'm not sure that's a hospital responsibility, but how was it communicated to residents about either shelter in place or avoid this area for concern of future?
That wouldn't have been our jurisdiction for
I
that.
didn't
What
know.
we did try to work with the county was education for the public on how to get to the facility. Because during this event, we had patients that were showing up unrelated to the event itself that were having trouble accessing care in the facility. So there's a lot of coordination we needed to do with the various jurisdictions that were at the barricades to let patients in. And I think that's one of the learning opportunities for these. As with any event that you have, you learn a lot from it. While we used our tenant alerts, we used internal emails. Internal communication is something that, as we identify, we can do more of in events like this. But certainly as you do your emergency management disaster drills, you can't plan for every possible scenario. And this was certainly one that, was challenging to deal with. But again, for the folks that responded and were there in the front line, we're really proud of what they did.
How well equipped do you feel like you are to handle like a mass casualty event?
I think we're very well equipped. As a level 1 trauma center, we're equipped.
On the community side, that was primarily done through the Pennsylvania Police Department, through the chief, and then the city.
Just didn't know if they had texting channels, social media.
Primarily all social media.
I think what was interesting that made me aware with how difficult the situation was is that nobody knew what was going on at first. That there was just no way to tell that there was a bomb that exploded, and there was also no way to know if there was another bomb in the vicinity. And I loved your story about how a nurse took a wheelchair out and collected a woman on the corner of the street who was in labor.
Yeah, they-
To get her.
She couldn't get past the barricades, so we went out to the far corner of the hospital on the opposite side for labor and delivery with a wheelchair to bring this mom into the facility. And that was part of the struggles when we had one jurisdiction running the event, different jurisdictions at the barricades. Some of that communication didn't get out. And that's not a criticism, that's just things that we need to learn from events like this.
Madam President,
Yes.
just one more comment is just to ensure that the communication is done in Spanish as well. I think we did get a lot of coverage afterwards, but I think the first couple of hours were a little bit slow. But afterwards, definitely there was a lot of coverage, but that's one of the things that if we could just communicate to our city, the city of Palm Springs, that just to ensure that that is also covered in the future, to ensure that there is public information being delivered in Spanish.
And to Carol's point, some of it was challenging because what we knew initially and what we thought was different from what it ended up being. So with what you communicate and when is a lot of what you learn from.
Nice job. I may add, Director Lara, Naomi Soto, I did see a couple of interviews that she was spearheading a lot of the messaging that was coming from the city of Palm Springs in Spanish. I did see her in a couple outlets, and also on social media, she was very active. So, just want to, point that out, that she was very active on social media and on our Spanish speaking television.
And great one as well.
Yeah. Are there any comments from those in attendance? Hearing none. Thank you, Mike.
Right.
Next on the agenda is the Desert Regional Medical Center Governing Board meeting report, which are attached to the minutes. And the only thing that I would point it out that I was really taken with was Dr. Bryans gave a presentation on the diagnosis of sepsis and how they've done early intervention within the emergency department, and came out with astounding over just giving antibiotics quickly, and that a infection does not always take the appearance of fever. It also includes increased heart rate, increased breathing, and sometimes the cardiologists get involved, and there's a discussion about whether antibiotics are appropriate. But the hospital has just made amazing progress, over almost 90% decrease in deaths over the period of years that they've instituted this program. Any questions about the governing meeting report? Any comments from those in attendance? Hearing none. Let's go to the district CEO report, Chris.
Thank you, President Rogers. The first item on the agenda is just the communication, and we appreciate the communication from our hospital administration regarding the unfortunate events of the bombing and that, and just wanted to point out that there is access for requesting support from the city of Palm Springs and that. So we did send out that information, via our social media, et cetera, so that we're communicating with the public, that have concerns and need support, for rebuilding, whatever, whether it's behavioral health support, because it's an emotional event that transpired, that there is that access through the city of Palm Springs. So a highlight there. The next item is for approval. It's a resolution number 2503, which is supporting Medicaid funding. We did receive notice from the county supervisors that they had approved a resolution in support of essentially kind of pushing back on our legislation and things that are going on with our current administration regarding the Medicaid cutbacks. And so we wanted to take the opportunity to present a resolution from the healthcare district in supporting or opposing the efforts that are trying to be taken place to limit our Medicaid and Medi-Cal funding to our community and throughout the state and country.
Can I ask Chris on this? I'm all in favor of this. But do we then distribute these to the congressional members within the district?
Yeah, we'll pass them on to,
Albert and Raul?
yeah, absolutely.
I move approval of the resolution.
Second.
More discussion?
I'd like to comment a couple things, there's a lot about Medicaid we don't fully understand. I mean, I work in space in Medi-Cal. I would like to see more information presented to this body before we take action on making a decision to understand how the funding is done. I think the more information you have about these things, you quickly realize some of the things stated here may not actually be happening like you think they're happening. So, I mean, I'm not a Medi-Cal expert. I'm not a Medicaid expert. I understand the funding behind that to some degree. I just caution making a blanketed agreement and recommendation without coming from an area of expertise. That's just from having worked in the space, understanding how complicated the reimbursements are, and seeing other things that have happened behind the scenes. So I'm all for supporting the population this way. We know that. I just think we have to caution ourselves in making a blanketed recommendation without fully understanding how Medicaid funding is. If you want to go that route, happy to bring in some people who understand it at a very deep level, and educate us before we go and make this blanketed recommendation from the board. I'm not against it necessarily, but I'm for making sure everybody makes an educated decision before we go pass along this resolution.
Go ahead.
Okay, I understand Director Longston's desire to learn more, and I'm also always wanting to learn more and understand things more. However, I think the timing is necessary for us to act on this, and I do appreciate our CEO bringing this forward and the information he shared. I'm sure he received it from credible sources, so I am supportive of this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I understand Dr. Luxon's point too as well. I actually chair the county's federally qualified Center Health Board, so know Medi-Cal really well.
Yeah.
The proposed cuts will be devastating to the county community health center. The possible closing, and I know it's out of our area, but the real possibility of the Blythe Hospital closing. I would just echo Director DeLara's comments is that this bill now has passed the House, and actually so we should send it to our senators, to the whole delegation, because it will probably come back. That the timing is really kind of crucial. We'll get that back in DC as soon as we can.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
So, Director Luxon, is there anything within the resolution that we should be paying a little more attention? Is there anything on the actual resolution that?
I mean, I would like to see more. I personally don't understand where the cuts are coming necessarily. That are coming down. I mean, I don't understand what they're cutting. It's everything I have done the personal research on, because I work in the space. I'll make sure we can take care of the patients at the hospital. I don't see where the cuts are coming in that are going to impact people getting care right now. I think it's probably a lack of my own knowledge, and I have a trouble from where I sit in terms of my position, always agreeing with a recommendation that I don't fully understand. So I've looked through a lot of what's going to be cut. I don't think they understand what's going to be cut yet. I just want to know more before I put my name on something that I understand, because I don't want patient care here being cut, but I don't understand what's going to be cut here in this community. And maybe somebody can educate me on the side on this. I feel like this was brought up here, and I haven't had a chance to I've read it here, but I would like more discussion around this for my own education. I don't want to stop the vote here, but there's a lot here because I take care of a lot of Medi-Cal patients.
Go ahead, Chris.
And I think and your point well taken, but I think here is what we're presenting is resolution for the best results, the best outcome that we're looking at for our residents. And I think we know on, on a higher level, without knowing the specific details, that if we have, substantial cuts to Medicaid, Medi-Cal, it's going to impact our community pretty significantly. So from a high level and not even understanding what the specifics are, and we don't even know what the final fallout's going to be, but I think a letter of or a resolution for supporting this, I think in general, is good for the healthcare district to do in helping to protect our residents as much as possible.
I feel the same way.
Go ahead, yeah.
I've already seen, some patients that are gonna be affected by IHSS cut in hours. So they're not gonna get they're lowering all the hours. So they did a cut there. Medi-Cal, the way I see it, and I work for a Medi-Cal health plan, but the way I see it, I don't think it's anything that's set in stone. Everybody's just thinking like, oh, it might be this or it might be that, because that's kind of what happens with the programs too with Medi-Cal. But I do know that everybody's going to be affected that has Medi-Cal, because it's even affecting SNAP. It's affecting everything. So I think that we should support it. I mean, nothing can happen by us. I think that nothing can happen by us supporting. We're just helping our community a little more, giving them like a safety net, or I don't know.
I guess, I would hope that's what it is. It just says strongly oppose under section 1. And I'm like, I honestly don't know enough to oppose something strongly, because I don't know what's going to happen. And I think I just have, like I said, it's just a personal thing. So you guys vote how you want, but it's hard for me to do that without being fully educated on it. And I'm just not.
If I could add,
Sure.
to what Dr. License, that all the details aren't fleshed out yet.
See, that makes me nervous.
Yeah, but whatever they do, at the amount that they're talking about doing will be huge across the board in Medi-Cal. Even like IEHP, we were working through a process at the county to do a whole community supports billing type system with them.
Sure.
They put the brakes on that because of the fears of what they're hearing of how waivers may be taken away through Medi-Cal and CalAIM. I get your hesitation. Just as one who's worked in the political world, the timing thing for me is, I think it's a good thing for us to make a statement. I still agree with you. I think it would be great once some of this gets more fleshed out to have someone come and educate us more on
What the cuts will be.
what the cuts will be specifically.
Yeah, maybe it says something instead of just, we oppose these cuts that are, that may be coming from this bill, because I don't think we know what's going to happen. So just opposing the whole bill, you're opposing a massive bill, one big beautiful, there's a lot more in there than just Medicaid cuts. So we can say like we oppose, cutting Medicaid for, community members here. And if that comes in this bill, then that bill needs to change. Something like that makes a lot of sense to me. But just to come out and oppose an entire bill that's, I don't know how many pages, I can't do that just because of one area. Now I can oppose this part, and I can recommend that when they go bring it to the Senate floor, like hammer this out so that people in need don't miss out on the care. We already have trouble taking care of them. I'm good with that.
Any more discussion?
If possible, for one of the board members, Spanish-speaking board members, if we can kind of translate the conversation. I think some of our Spanish-speaking, attendees would like to kind of.
And we need members of the public to weigh in also.
Yes. I thought that was your job.
It
went so well.
I can, if you would like me to. Okay, cool. Ahorita la conversación que se está presentando sobre este documento que es apoyo de una declaración que hizo la mesa directiva de supervisores del condado apoyando los cortos, o no apoyando los cortos que vienen del gobierno federal de Medicaid. Obviamente sabemos que la administración ahorita del gobierno del presidente Trump está abogando para pasar esta legislatura que se llama el Big Beautiful Bill, que adentro de ese Big Beautiful Bill incluye casi recortes de 700 millones de dólares, billones, a ciertos programas que son fundamentales aquí en nuestra comunidad, que como Medicaid, Medi-Cal, como nosotros lo sabemos aquí en California, SNAP, WIC y ciertos programas federales que van a ser impactados. Ahorita el documento y la conversación que se está presentando en la mesa directiva es sobre el apoyo de esta resolución, apoyando la resolución que se hizo a nivel del condado. Ahorita la conversación entre diferentes miembros de la mesa directiva es el apoyo, tal vez sin saber de los detalles que vienen adentro de este Big Beautiful Bill. Y es la conversación ahorita que se está presentando entre los diferentes directores. Did I miss anything?
Oh, that was good. They're all possible. Just make sure they know they're all possible. We don't know what's in there. I'm not sure you said that, but.
Sí, el director Lacton dice que no sabemos cómo los detalles todavía de esos recortes que se están presentando, y eso es lo que ahorita es la discusión entre los diferentes directores, de que no sabemos esos detalles todavía, cómo van a impactar nuestra comunidad, pero como nosotros lo estamos presentando, queremos ser proactivos para proteger a nuestra comunidad que se beneficia de esos programas federales.
Are there any comments from those in attendance?
¿Comentarios les gustaría hacer?
Primero en español para que sepan todos. Me llamo Rosa Lupa, soy de los fundadores
Would you
de...
like to come present?
No. De la Junta de Voluntarios Elecciones de parte de Alianza Nacional de Mujeres Mexicanas y Líderes Campesinas. Y sabemos los que estamos aquí muchos años, casi todos.
No, es que yo entiendo.
Okay, pero hay unos que no, y voy a... Okay. Sabemos casi todos aquí cuánto defendemos en lo que dice, lo que cree, lo que apoya el distrito, los directores. Y digo que si usted quiere votar en contra, muy bien, pero espero que todos los demás van a seguir con el voto y que van a apoyar a nuestra comunidad como siempre han hecho. Gracias. What I'm saying, did anybody not understand me? Are the people who, oh, okay. Okay. Well, basically I'm saying that people know who I am already, but anyway, that people who've lived here a long time, most of the people on this board, know the needs of our community. The community depends on this board to support them, and depends on what this board does and says for our community to continue doing the work it does. And I hope that this comes to a vote today. Things will change, but I hope that other than the one person who I believe has been here the least amount of time in our community, will vote in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Rosa Lucas.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, if I might, since I was the original maker of the motion, propose an amendment in section 1 on the actual resolution. For the wording to say the Desert Healthcare District and Foundation strongly opposes significant cuts to Medi-Cal under HR 119. Does that work? It's perfect.
Yeah, and I think that says that a little bit down later where it says that Medicaid cuts to.
Yeah, but
I agree. I think let's
Yeah.
clarify because there may be a lot of things to oppose on that bill.
There's going to
from
be.
what I understand.
there is.
You know,
We know that. All of it.
we're not saying, this focus is on that.
But I think that addresses your concern
Yeah,
about.
it does, and it focuses what we're really focused, that's really it, like, we can oppose the whole thing, but I don't know the whole thing, but what you said, I 100% agree with.
Andrea, did you get that?
I do, so, Vice President Rodriguez is amending his motion to amend section 1 of the resolution to say strongly opposes significant cuts to Medi-Cal under HR 119, correct? And-
Medicaid,
Medicaid.
even though we use Medi-Cal in California.
Same, but,
Yeah, I know.
but Medicaid should be blurred.
Do we need a roll call vote for this?
Say it in Spanish, then I'm the official translator now.
Yes.
Ahorita la recomendación que hizo el vicepresidente Rodríguez es de un cambio en cómo se presentaba el documento, ahora para que sea más específico, que diga los cortes significantes a Medicaid, en vez de que sea a toda la legislatura que se está presentando, que sea específica a Medicaid. Y ahorita van a votar y el director Loxden dijo que sí, está bien por él que se hagan esos cambios.
Are there any other comments?
¿Otros comentarios?
I do have an addition. I'm supportive of the change, even though I am a little disappointed. But I'm supportive of it in the effort of being compromised and to ensure that we do push this forward as hopefully unanimous vote. I believe that the first paragraph where it says that the Healthcare District and Foundation is dedicated to the mission of ensuring optimal health for every resident. I think that includes a lot of other things besides just direct healthcare. It includes being able to provide shelter, being able to provide food, healthy food. So there's a lot of things here that I think that was what I liked about it is that yes, we are pointing out Medicaid as one of the things, but the fact that anything that affects somebody negatively in our district, the health of our district, it bothers me, and I hope that we do make a stand on that. So I am moving forward with this.
Just trying to be unanimous with.
Yes, I do.
Unanimous vote.
Is there still open for comment?
Of course.
I'll say in Spanish first.
Okay.
I'm gonna say my name, yeah. Billy Treviño Salceda with Alianza Nacional de Campesinas. It's a national alliance of farmers women. And, you know, when we came to this, cuando vinimos a esta comunidad en los 70s, when our family came in the 70s, there wasn't that much help and support. No había mucha ayuda, no había, y creo que todavía falta mucho. And I still believe that there's a lot to be done in this community, especially in the southeast of the valley, especialmente en el sureste del valle. ¿Por qué? Porque hay comunidades que no tienen ni para comer. There's communities that don't even have food. And our farmers are the ones that pick and harvest, and, you know, do everything so that we can get food in our tables. Y la gente campesina es la que asegura que haya, que cultiva y pisca la fruta y la verdura y no la puede comprar. They can't even, many families do not have the means to be able to buy food, much less have whatever kind of insurance. No, there isn't. Okay, so these kind of programs, it took us, and I say us, because many of us have been involved since the 60s, 70s. Muchos de nosotros tenemos muchísimos años trabajando para que haya un bienestar para la comunidad. And where I'm getting at, and I'm sorry, I might be taking more than the time, but because I'm translating, but and I have to think English and, you know, translate it. These kind of programs, it took us decades to be able to have them, and the amounts of funds to be able to support, you know, the people that need it. Este tipo de programas se tomó décadas para poder asegurar que se tuvieran este tipo de apoyos. And now this administration, I feel, yo pienso, no tiene
ninguna manera de ver la realidad. This administration doesn't have a very good view about what the realities are here in our communities, not just the Coachella Valley, everywhere, because it's devastating everything. The kind of making one big beautiful bill act is for whom? ¿Para quién? ¿Para quién es esta acta que quieren apoyar? But lo que se está diciendo aquí, whatever is being said right now, is that it's important that we here make a decision in terms of opposing it, because it's not a big, beautiful bill. It's a bill that's gonna, it's gonna be devastating, and it's gonna kill many more than what during the pandemic happened. And yo sé que lo que está pasando ahorita está peor que cuando fue lo de la pandemia. This, at least during that time, we still had some kind of support, and people had faith, and people had the trust, everything else. Right now, everybody is in a chaos. And I am concerned that as board members, not everybody has the information about what is the reality that's going on. For us, like Rosa was saying, it's very important that you make a decision, not try to cover and feel good about, okay, let's oppose it. Let's not be in, and because I don't feel good about it. And you know what? We don't feel good about what's going on, and our communities are going to suffer it. Maybe not everybody, but our communities will. And for us, the decision needs to be where we're completely opposing everything that's part of that bill, because it's affecting our elders, it's affecting our children, it's affecting many. And this is not about, okay, let's take our time and learn about it. If enough of you know, keep pushing for it. This is not about compromising it. Please. Aquí no se trata de que quedemos bien con unas cosas, no, tenemos que apoyar todo. ¿Por qué? Porque aquí no se trata de comprometernos con nadie. Se trata de hacer el bien. This is to do the right thing. And as part of the community, I do feel that we need to make a strong, decision, not just a decision that's going to make us feel good.
I think Arthur has a question. Arthur has a question.
Arthur and then our person here. Arthur, you're on.
I'd like the floor at an appropriate time, Madam President. Is this the time?
This is an appropriate time.
Well, I've been witness over the course of my 50-something odd years of healthcare administration, of government manipulation of healthcare prices, costs, reimbursement, etc. Unfortunately, what we're going through now is an extraordinarily extreme reality of it. So, and I don't think we can predict, Director Hodgson, I don't think we can predict at this point in time what the impacts are going to be, but I can suggest a couple of potentials. Access to care is going to become a major problem. Simply put, waiting times in emergency rooms will double, if you will, to the extent that if that's only the case. We need to look at, and the rationale behind governments imposing cuts on the healthcare delivery system is that somehow the charitable nature of our country, our churches, our community organizations will pick up the slack. Now, if we can anticipate that and translate that into an action plan, assuming there are serious cuts in access to healthcare, registration of people, on and on and on, we've got to find creative ways to solve that problem. And I'm going to suggest one, only to suggest a germ of a thought process. We have a mobile clinic, and it operates from a certain number of days and a certain number of hours. Tomorrow, that clinic might have to be open 18 hours a day and be mobile and be in 6 sites in a given day, merely to meet a demand for basic primary care. As an example of what I think our constituents and our service agents are going to have to do to step up so that our citizens are not really injured, because injury is a very real possibility here. When there's no access to care, all hell can break loose. So I use the example of our mobile clinic. Think of all of our agencies that provide some sort of care, whether it's food, whether it's shelter, whether it's primary care, and let's get ready to respond in real time to the requests that I predict will probably overwhelm us when they start coming in, notwithstanding what is and isn't in the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more comment, please.
Hi, Debbie Espinosa with Fine Food Bank. I'm the CEO. I just want to be able to maybe frame the conversation from a different standpoint from the food security space. Fine Food Bank, we're the regional food bank, as you know, that serves the area under the Feeding America system. And I serve on the National Council of Feeding America, one of the 17 CEOs throughout the United States that represents nationally as well as locally. We've been doing a lot of work with this bill. From the food security standpoint, but Feeding America has also said, because we understand the synthesis between both SNAP and Medicaid and the effects that one will have on the other both ways. Food security will rise if Medicaid drops. Food insecurity will rise as Medicaid drops, but food insecurity will also rise simultaneously if SNAP drops, and vice versa, because you cannot separate food from health, which is the reason why Feeding America is educating many of our congressional leaders, including doing a really big educational outreach to both of our congressional leaders before it went to the House. And unfortunately, it passed in the House, which means that we're starting to do it now with the senators. But we continue to work with the House in case the Senate doesn't approve it and it goes back to the House for refinement. We want to make sure that everybody is armed as best as they can be in order to make an educated decision. Specifically for food insecurity, SNAP is looking at a $300 billion cut. And what a lot of people are thinking is that it's not really a cut. What they're doing is they're taking 300 billion and they're dividing the 300 billion up and sending that amount back to the states and saying, well, you don't have to cut it if your state can afford it. Well, we've estimated for the state of California, ours is going to be somewhere between 3.1 billion to 4 billion to make up what the federal government will not pay for on SNAP anymore. And I asked the question, can the state of California take on an extra $4 billion when we're looking at a potential deficit budget coming into this next year, because it can't happen just that fast. And then if SNAP is cut, what does that look like for our local communities? Fine Food Bank distributes close to 20 million pounds of free food over 150 different sites throughout the Coachella Valley. And we still have people that are struggling to eat. Many of them are on SNAP because, remember, food assistance is bridging between what the 98% of the people that we serve who are working against the cost of living that we're trying to battle. And they use a combination of both free food resources as well as SNAP in order to be able to make up the difference. And they're still kind of falling behind. So we have spoken to try to educate our congressional leaders to be educated on this. But where you're asking what's going on with Medicaid, I can tell you, I'm not sure exactly what is happening on that 700 billion, but I can tell you this is what SNAP looks like. And if SNAP falls and Medicaid falls all at the same time, we probably see things that we haven't seen before in decades, at least not in my lifetime. So hopefully that adds some sort of understanding from maybe a different perspective on what is going on here with this bill and how conversations around it are trying to position it in certain ways, but when you get down to the basics of what the bill looks like, that is what they are doing with SNAP, which is the reason why Feeding America is advocating not to make any changes to SNAP nor Medicaid, because they work in synthesis with one another for the health of people, which is what you're saying in paragraph number 1. So thank you for putting that in there.
Thank you.
Sorry, I should have paused.
That's great. I think I captured the gist of it, and I think lo que está mencionando Debbie, que es la directora ejecutiva, y todos lo conocemos de Pine Food Bank, que es el banco de comida aquí regional del Valle de Coachella y también otras áreas afuera del Valle de Coachella. Pero lo que ella está mencionando de que estos cortos a Medicaid, que van a tener un efecto de dominó, que cuando un programa se es impactado, ¿qué es lo que están haciendo ahorita? Los cortes que se van a hacer, no los van a hacer a nivel federal, pero se los van a pasar al Estado. Y ahorita la pregunta que nos hizo Debbie es de que sí, ahorita como el Estado, estamos fiscalmente, no tenemos el dinero para cubrir esos cortes que van a ser recomendados por Medicare. Y como ella mencionó que mucha de nuestra comunidad se beneficia de estos programas de WIC, de CalFresh, de todos esos programas de SNAP que van a ser impactados, que no solo, tal vez no sea el programa el grande que miramos, pero va a haber ese efecto de dominó, que tal vez los programas abajo de una agencia van a ser impactados y va a impactar a nuestra comunidad porque ya se están mirando las líneas más grandes en las dispensas. La gente ya está buscando otras alternativas porque esos cortes ya vienen.
Thank you.
So I'm opposed to probably everything in the bill. This is specifically though, it's worded about Medicaid. And so that's, we would have to have staff probably research all that. And to include everything, I think doesn't mean it includes that, so I have my back with some people. Precludes us from coming back. You know me, that I'm a big fan, but you have, and adding some of those other things, because I know the poverty that we talked about. I've worked down in Oasis area and all that.
We live like it.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say, and Letty, maybe if you're gonna say something to help me, it's the specific wording in here that only lays out the effects that Medicaid has. Because I agree with you, Letty, in the fact that everything contributes to health, housing. I could go on and on talking about the health cuts that are proposed. Again, food, water, infrastructure. So
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to help you. I'm going to ask for clarification on who made the second on your original motion. Okay, and I'm wondering, I would like to find out if the maker of the motion is okay with the proposed change to the motion.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, thank you. Then I guess we move forward to the vote.
Okay, roll call please.
Director Forestville? Yes. Director Shore?
Yes.
Director DeLauro?
No.
Director Logston?
Yes.
Secretary Barraza?
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez?
yes.
And President Rogers?
Yes.
Ahorita aprobaron la recomendación que hizo el vicepresidente Rodríguez al cambio de la legislatura de la propuesta del documento que se estaba presentando y se fue aprobado con esos cambios que fueron sugeridos por el vicepresidente Rodríguez.
¿Los cambios fueron?
Los cambios fueron de incluir el que sean específico a Medicaid y en vez de what was the specific changes that we had on that? No, I'm sorry.
It's in the actual resolution that we strongly oppose significant cuts to Medicaid under HR, whatever.
119.
Sorry, the number.
Sí, que lo que nosotros como agencia estamos diciendo a través de ese documento que nosotros estamos a contra de los cortes que se están haciendo a Medicaid. Estamos dándole la contra a los cortes que vienen a través de la propuesta esta del Big Beautiful Bill. Sí.
Madam President,
Go ahead.
I just want to thank staff again for bringing this forward. I appreciate that you're trying to be proactive. And my only opposition was that this was not strong enough. So thank you.
Y la directora de Lara dijo que la razón por qué ella no apoyó en su voto es porque ella piensa que no es lo fuerte necesario. El lenguaje que se incluye ahí no es lo fuerte necesario como a ella le gustaría.
Okay, moving on. Riverside County Home Supportive Services.
And I wanted to thank Andrea. She's the one that brought the resolution from the county supervisor's office and brought it to my attention. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda are, we have 3 sponsorships to present. One is for the Riverside County In-Home Supportive Services, their caregiver appreciation event. And we're proposing a $1,000 sponsorship request for this item.
Do we need to vote on each one individually?
I think we should, yes, please.
Any discussion? Go ahead.
Okay, so I am supportive of this. I think it's a good program and a good event to be able to support this. I'm just wondering, one of the things that we talked about at a previous meeting was to have a budget for some of these sponsorships coming forward. They did provide some information in the letter that they would like to spend the money, I guess, on cover expenses such as venue rentals, catering, decorations, and printed materials. I think that's good, but I think it's still a good idea that we ask for a budget. That way we know exactly where our money is going towards. But I am supportive of this. If we could assign it to one of these things that we would, if it's, I would propose that we assign it to either venue rentals or catering. That would.
Sure. Just, I think you could just choose one and make that part of your.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think catering would be better to do.
Okay, catering. So I recommend approval that the $1,000 sponsorship would go towards the catering expenses.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Seconded, roll call, please.
Director Perez-Hill,
Yes.
Director Shore,
Yes,
Director DeLauro,
Yes.
Director Austin,
Yes.
Secretary Barraza. Yes. Vice President Rodriguez.
Yes.
And President Rogers.
Yes. Next, Desert Fast Pitch.
Madam President, if I may, I'm going to recuse myself, step out of the room for this topic.
Knew that was good.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a sponsorship request of $5,000 for Desert Fast Pitch. That's an event that Regional Access Project Foundation puts on annually. And the district has supported in the past at the $5,000 level and requesting approval for that sponsorship.
Discussion.
I have a move approval.
Major seconded. Any discussion from those in attendance? Roll call, please.
Director Perez-Hill,
Yes.
Director Shore,
yes,
Director Logston,
Yes.
Secretary Barraza. Yes. Vice President Rodriguez.
Yes.
And President Rogers.
Yes. Next, Marion Foundation Annual Scholarship.
Wait for Director DeLauro to return. Next item on the agenda is a $2,500 sponsorship request from Carry On Foundation to support their annual scholarship banquet on June 15th. This sponsorship request would also include a table of 10 for directors and others to attend the banquet. So that's before you for your consideration of approval.
Any discussion? Go ahead.
Chris, do you have an idea of what the money would be used for, should it be approved?
It was kind of a last minute one that I received right when we were publishing packet, and I apologize, I did not get the specifics on that.
Oh, weird. Didn't somebody elaborate what the Carrion Foundation is?
We give scholarships to students to study.
Is it like a local? Yeah.
It's the Coachella Valley and the Palo Verde Valley, students qualify.
It's truly local.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
And the district did just approve a grant
Mhm.
to carry on foundations.
Any more discussion?
If I may, staff, do you have any concerns with this? Are you recommending approval?
Yeah, recommending approval. It's just from the communication with Ricardo. It's like a great benefit to help support them for this cause and for this banquet that they're putting on.
Go ahead.
And I believe in the past, all this, the costs of this are free, they can anything free, so most of the dollars will be raised, will all go to scholarships.
Thank you for that.
Hi, Linda Evans. I'll just share with Dr. Carrion Foundation for Dr. Watson's benefit. Dr. Carrion was an ophthalmologist who had a practice in LA and came out here, the desert, to help the underserved for a long time. He had land in Indio, and that was land that was donated to build JFK Memorial Hospital. Since there's a charter school, the Dr. Carrion Cadet Academy School, right there on Monroe, and he established this foundation specifically for Latinos to get scholarships to go into healthcare fields. They've expanded it to other minorities as well. But a suggestion you could make for this sponsorship, should you move forward, you can request from Ricardo, the executive director, to have a named scholarship from Desert Healthcare District, specifically to a student that's going to be pursuing a healthcare career. They have a lot of variety of different careers, mental health, sociology, physicians, all that, and you can utilize the funds towards that in addition to attending the lunch.
Thank you.
That's excellent context.
Go ahead.
I will make a motion to approve this at $2,500 and to request that they use it for the scholarship. Health
Yeah, healthcare
Related.
related funds.
Related fund. Great.
I'll second that.
Okay, by Dr.
Hold on,
Watson.
but I have a question. But the sponsorship is to pay expenses at the event.
But she said the majority of it, I think, goes to scholarships. It's free event.
The venue free,
Because
everything else is
the high.
sponsor fee.
That's the only issue I have. Is it a bit like you die?
Director Rodriguez.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Supporting.
Roll call, please.
Director Perez-Hill,
Yes.
Director Shore,
Yes,
Director Delara,
Yes.
Director Loxton.
Yes.
Secretary Barraza,
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez.
Yes.
And President Rogers.
Yes. Next, CEO engagement.
Next is CEO engagements and district media visibility. The report is in the packet for your review and available there if you have any questions.
Are there any questions, any discussion? Questions from those in attendance?
Okay. I do have a question for our CEO. Didn't we have an item recently about the ACHD and the board of directors?
Correct.
Is there any update on that?
Yes, thank you. I just did get notice on Friday, I believe it is, that they had their board of directors meeting, and the application that your CEO applied was approved unanimously by the ACHD board. So I've been approved for our district.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Any other discussion? This is not an action item. We'll just move on. Legal, Jeffrey Scott.
Sorry. Can I say something about community events?
Sure.
Because this is something that's really close to my heart. We had our grand opening for our park in our neighborhood this past Thursday. And basically, the park is named Esperanza. Basically, among the community, it's el parque que creció de la esperanza, right? Because the community was always asking for a park, and they would always get like, they would not get their park or whatever. We wouldn't get our park to the And finally, through a health needs assessment that we did with Alejandro, because I was a community health worker with him during that project. Through that, we got some information, and that was one of the things that the community members asked for in the needs assessment. And they were able to use that information plus other information and videos of the kids asking for a park in order to ask for the park. And they finally had the grand opening on Thursday, and everybody was happy.
Great.
Where did the funding come from?
It was 8 something million from the state park. All right.
State,
8.4.
I think it was Prop 68.
And I think Eduardo Garcia was the one that.
Mr. Park.
Yeah, great.
It's a beautiful park.
It's all
It's very beautiful.
futuristic.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
Good pictures.
It's really nice.
Any more discussion? Moving on, Jeff, you're on.
Okay, so no formal report, but also on a more lighter note, Mr. DeToro's report I thought was interesting because one thing I've experienced over the last 40 plus years representing hospital is the one thing you can always agree on is there's never enough parking at a hospital, and the elevators are all or upgraded. So I appreciated that. And then just very excited to report to the board that this Thursday afternoon, the board of directors at Tri-City Healthcare District will be considering entering into a 4 months exclusivity agreement to negotiate a 30-year 30-year lease and transfer agreement with of all of its assets to Sharp Healthcare. And it's a similar transaction that has been going on for 35 years with Grossmont Hospital. And I think that the transaction is similar to that. It's a little bit different than our transaction because Tenet's a for-profit and Sharp is a nonprofit. So there's a couple of little things that are different about it, but I'm very excited that will help secure the future if we are able to finalize that for healthcare in the northwestern San Diego County.
Which hospital was that?
Tri-City Medical Center, which is owned by the Tri-City Healthcare
They
District.
kind of work together anyways now.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Any questions? Any questions from those in attendance? Okay, moving on to committee reports. Hospital Lease Oversight Committee. You have in your packet minutes, quarterly inspection schedule, re-inspection information. Are there any questions or comments about the Hospital Lease Oversight Committee minutes? Do we need to move for approval?
I think, it's just information. All of the items are information.
Right. Moving on.
Thank you.
Board and Staff Communications and Policies Committee. You have draft meeting minutes. And item B is policy OP 12.1 cost of living adjustment, which is an action item. And staff comment on where we are on that?
Sure. So staff presented this policy to both the Policies Committee as well as the Finance and Administration Committee, and much discussion about it. And essentially it stems back to just a few years ago when we did have a couple of years during the pandemic and some years of inflation. And so there were a couple of years where there was a cost of living adjustment in addition to the staff's merit increase adjustment. So what was requested is that staff bring a cost of living adjustment policy so that there is some definition to how we implement that COLA consideration in any given year. And so the policy has been presented. There's some certain language in there that there's some discussion about. I forget the item number or the area number of it, but anyway, it's before the board for consideration, discussion, and possible action in approving this policy.
Well, I did do some research, and the CPI index presently is 3.0.321. And it, for the year to date, March, in Riverside County, the cost of living has increased by 2.5%. So that's on the table for discussion as to whether you want to use a CPI index yearly. And you look at the budget for staff. Go ahead.
Well, actually, the proposal or the resolution, it does indicate that we would use a CPI should we approve this. Okay, so the issue that, I'm supportive of this. This is something that we talked about, I think it was last year when we did approve a cost of living, that we wanted to have something more specific as to what would be the environment that we would actually act on something, what would we use, CPI, and how would this be, when would this be presented? So we are addressing the CPI in here, referencing that as being what we would use as the potential increase. We are saying that we want to bring it forward at budget time. And the only thing that I think I keep bringing up during the committee meetings, and our CEO did mention that we had a very good discussion about this, was that in the third paragraph, where on the second sentence where it says that when the cost of living goes up by a certain percentage, employee wages, yada, yada, yada. So the word certain percentage to me is very vague. So I think that I would feel a lot more comfortable if we were to have what is the trigger that would actually put this policy into place so that it is not up to the CEO to say, okay, is 1% it? Is it as high as 10%, which was at some point, I think back when inflation got really bad, like 3-4 years ago, that it was really high, maybe as high as 7%. So that's the number that I wanted to be a little bit more specific. And so at that time, during the committee discussion, the question was asked, well, what is the number that I'm comfortable with? And I couldn't give a number at that time. I did think about it long and hard for a couple of days to figure out what would it be if it were up to me. And so I finally settled on the 5%. The reason being is that we increase in our budget, we added a salary table for all staff. And in there, we have increased of 5% that if a staff member meets performance, the merit increase is 5%. So I believe that every staff member right now still has a merit increase elevation. So if there was a staff member that didn't have that, I would feel like we have to actually have a lower amount to actually be able to continue to validate our staff to be able to keep up with the cost of living. However, with that in mind, I think that 5%, that if the merit increase is not keeping up with inflation, that we should take to approve a cost of living for our staff. So that is I'm not in favor of this resolution as is, because I do not believe that that is specific enough to move forward as is. So I would propose that instead that we consider having, when the cost of living goes up by 5 percentage points, then at that time we would look at up to higher than 5%, then that's when it actually would trigger it, if it's higher than 5%. And the reason why I'm saying this is because besides the fact of the merit increases that we have on a yearly basis, even though it's not guaranteed, that's when it would come to the board, and the board would say, yes, we are okay with that, and then add it to the budget that year. There are a lot of families in our district that do not have a cost of living, that do not have merit increases. You know, just going back to the county, my background, they don't get a cost of living every year. It's only when it gets to be to the point that it's exasperated the situation. So I think even then, maybe.
I didn't get one the last 2 years.
So that's something that I think we have to consider, is the population that we are serving, to be just understanding and be just consideration of those that we serve, that I think it is important that we take that into consideration.
Would you recommend that we send it back to policy committee for rewarding or for further development, or just a change?
Well, I would like, I think the committee's already kind of, that was the one issue that we kept going back and forth on, whether, but I would prefer that we just have that the trigger point being the 5, if it's higher than 5%, then we consider a quota.
Director Loxton.
Thank you for, putting effort into caring for the staff, and really watching out for our ability to retain them and their financial viability. So I appreciate that. My one point is just a clarification point. When you say 5%, is that an annual 5%? Or if it's 4.5% for the last 5 years, we don't take any action?
Every year, that's the trigger point. If it's
So
higher than 5%.
But what if it goes up? What if it goes up 20% over 6 years?
No, every year we evaluate it.
But my point is, what if it's 3.5% every year? And it does that every year, because CPI is 3%. So this is, I think Arthur can probably comment on this much more eloquently than I can, but CPI is nice because it takes into account, one, what happens during the year. Because if you see 5% increase in CPI, that's a lot. I think if you look at national average over the past 20 or 30 years, Arthur will correct me, I don't think it's hits 5% a lot. So I worry that you don't have the trigger point. And I think CPI is very consistent across a lot of industries on how they look at it. And the other point I think that's in here is like, this is an action we can take. We're not mandated to look at CPI every year, but I think what it does is it gives the board now and future boards the ability to offer the staff additional increases in their wages to help with retention, help make sure that their needs are being met, help sure that we're setting the example to the community about how you take care of staff. So I think that's my only point, is like, if it doesn't meet 5% and it doesn't make that for 10 years, we would never consider it. I'm not sure. Go ahead.
Madam Chairman.
All right.
With all due respect, Director DeLauro, you're guessing at a number. It happens to be comfortable for you, but you're guessing. I think if you were to use a national statistic, whatever that number is, should be the basis of our decision making, whether it's CPI or the Office of Management and Budget, or if it's the number used by the Social Security Administration. These are national solid numbers, and it gives you an anchor point. But just to pick a number out of the sky, you might be right. 5% might be perfect, but also 4.697% would be just as perfect. And that too is a guess. So I'm not in favor of guessing at a number. I'm in favor of picking a nationally recognized statistic and using that as our threshold for triggering any any district funds.
And the CPI does focus on the Riverside County, not other places in the country.
I'm not, just for clarification, Director Shore, I'm not saying that we would not use CPI. I'm just saying is that it's too vague when you don't have a point of when do you do it. I believe that we should use CPI, the Riverside County CPI, but I'm not agreeing with you in that it's my uneducated guess. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we do use CPI, but when do we use CPI?
Well, that's a different question. That's a different question.
That's the trigger.
I'm perfectly okay with the Riverside County CPI. All we have to do is agree on when to do it. And the logic would be during the budget construction to build it into the budget and use it if and when it's appropriate.
And I think it's difficult to mandate it every time because you don't know when you need it. It may need to be more than the CPI to keep up with. If we have wage inflation, we may need to do a 10% cost of living increase because over the last 3 years, we saw a lot of inflation. And, we might have to catch up to that if we felt that our salaries were out of range. And I think Chris and whoever the CEO is would probably give us some feedback. And as we go through the budget, we look at those salary lines. And if we see somebody's way outside of where they should be, then we have to make that adjustment to make sure we retain the staff. I just want to make sure there's flexibility built in this, that we can use it when we need to.
Well, and you can do that during the budget process.
Right. Yeah, we do that at least every year.
Every year, right. But if you make this a policy that the cost of living increase is going to be based on the CPI for Riverside County, and whatever that percentage is approved by the board during the budget process.
And we may say
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the average CPI has been 2.38% over the last 5 years. I think to Letty's point though, sorry, Director. There's already a 5% annual raise built in based on merit. And somebody would have to tell me the last time somebody didn't get that 5%. It just because how good the staff is. So I think I actually agree with like the 5% level because that basically is almost double what the average of the CPI has been over the 5 years. And would basically take the cost.
Then would it have been triggered in the last 5 years?
Probably
When
2023, maybe.
Yeah,
But would it have been, did it go above 5%?
2023 were the 2 years that we did COLA increase.
And it was like, because it's tied to the rate of inflation, right?
Yeah, because we had one that was like 10% 1 year, 5 or 6 the next year. 6% the next year.
How did you base the number that you increased it by?
Based on the CPI charts. So that's why I was questioning the 2.3 as an average. Is that an average or is that every year?
That's the average over the last 5 years. So in 2022, it was an 8% increase.
You're overcomplicating it. Go year by year and it's not rocket science. You have a number that's calculated every year based on that year's reality.
But I don't think Director Villar and I are saying that everyone should get, that everyone should get a raise every year based on the
This doesn't say
CPI.
that though.
Right.
This just gives us a mechanism for it. This isn't when we give it, but the mechanism of it.
Well, what you're saying is philosophically different than the issue at hand. Whether people should get raises every year is a policy decision. This is an arithmetic calculation based on a rock solid number that's designed to keep people from falling backwards based on inflation, no more, no less. And you, by adding in your comments about, well, people shouldn't get raises every year, you're overcomplicating this.
I didn't say that.
Well, but that's the point. It's a separate issue. It's a policy issue, not an arithmetic calculation of numbers.
Are you saying it should be automatically triggered if CPI is over 5%?
Yes.
So that doesn't say that, but if that's what you wanted to say, then that's a different policy. So that would be you're saying that's an automatic trigger.
No. It initiates the process, but it still comes to the board to be included in the budget and using the CPI for the regional CPI. So it just initiates it. It doesn't make it automatic.
But if
So
it
you-
never,
So what
Sorry.
you're saying, what you're saying is there's a 5% threshold that would trigger a discussion in the board, and the board might conclude that, okay, let's give them 1%.
Yes.
Is that what you
Yes.
mean? Is that what you mean?
If it is higher than 5%, if the CPI is 7%, then it would be triggered. And then the CEO at that time because of policy is required to then bring it to us to consider in the budget process if we want to include that in the budget. If that is, if it's less than 5%, then he then is going to bring it to us every year. And I don't think that I know it could, okay, it could, okay. I know your reaction over there, but it could. And a lot of people don't have that, I don't want to say luxury, but that built in automatic. Okay. So, I just think that because we review the salary table every year and I'm comfortable with it, I was in favor of it. I don't think there's anybody on our staff that's going to be hurt by, because there is a merit increase in there. If there wasn't, then I would say, yeah, they haven't gotten raises in every year and we need to keep up with inflation. But that's part of the workplace is that if you are getting your merit increase 5%, that's pretty good.
But not everybody gets the 5%.
If they're not performing, then they don't get it. But
But
that's
if-
automatic is 5%. Is it 5%, Chris?
But if they're not
You're
performing,
basically arguing, Letty, with all due respect, you're arguing with yourself. Listen to what you just
I
said.
don't think so.
Well, let me explain.
Argue with you.
Maybe you can see it a little bit differently. You're saying a person gets a merit increase of X% up to whatever's in the budget. But you really don't get that because there's been an inflation factor that kicks in, and therefore I'm really not going to give you 5%. I'm going to give you 5% and not give you a cost of living thing. You're by doing this logic, you're conflating merit increases with static cost of living increases that no one can control. Either you believe in giving people an opportunity to stay current, whether or not they get a merit increase, or you believe that it nets out against a merit increase. And that's really the issue here. And with all due respect, I can't imagine why I would give someone a 5% raise based on merit and then say to them, yeah, but I'm only giving you, but there was a 2% inflation, so your net increase is 3%. If that's what we mean, if that's what we mean, then that's what we should do.
Okay, I just do not believe that as public employees that we should have that added bonus of that a lot of families in our community don't even get a merit increase, that don't get the COLA. It's a very small percentage. And I believe that our employees get paid very well and there's satisfaction in the work that they do. And that's why they have chosen this field. So I believe that I am not in favor of it going forward as is, if there is not the trigger of the 5%. But I know that I am not convincing you, Director Shore, same as our committee meeting. So,
well, me neither, because I'm very confused. You know, I'm thinking that a person performance is based on, and what we put in the budget is 5%. But if there's a 2.5% cost of living increase, and you give somebody 5% increase, their merit increase doesn't mean anything. It means that they only get a 2.5%.
Exactly.
Just think of all those people on social security that only are getting 2.2%.
But you don't have to take action on the CPI. All we're trying to do is build a mechanism in that guides the board that we can take action on CPI. We don't have to do that every year. We still get to have all the discretion over the budget. If we think a CPI is warranted, we do it. If we don't, we don't. We just need a policy that gives, there's no policy about how we do it. You know, before we did 10%, 6%. It was based on CPI, but nothing guided the board then on how to do it. And that's all they're saying is you don't have to mandate it. You just have to say, we have a mechanism that we can do cost of living. And if we decide, the people who sit on the board at the time, that 5% is what we look at and 5% is it, then great. But I don't want to constrain people into what may come in the economic future. I just want a mechanism that gives us the justification to meet those needs.
So then why can't the policy just state that?
That would be great.
Well, the
I'm all
reason
in
why I
favor.
guess I keep hanging on this is because the impetus for creating this policy was when I brought up, 4 or 5 years ago, can we have a policy that makes it clear as to when we consider COLA? And I believe that 2 of the 3 things that were brought up in that discussion have been addressed. One of the things has not been addressed, and maybe that's why I'm just sticking
Sure.
on it.
Sure.
And that what is the trigger? And we approved 2 COLAs back-to-back years. And my question was at that time, are we gonna be doing this every year? And at that time, the board said, no, there's only extenuating circumstances that we should be considering this. And so I believe that 2 of the 3 extenuating circumstances have been addressed, but the trigger has not been addressed. And that's why I'm not comfortable with this, because of that discussion. And, this is a different board now, but I still think that what caused us to be looking at this on a back-to-back year was the reason that I want to avoid that on a yearly basis for us
We
to be
don't have to
looking
look
at.
at it yearly.
Yes,
That's
we
our
will.
option.
We
Well,
will.
But we,
Because whose discretion is it?
well, yours and mine and Arthur's and whoever sits on the treasury board to look over that, the board at first to bring it back. We could also have automatic triggers in there if that's what you're concerned about, it never being triggered. But I think you should make sure the board has enough pliability and flexibility to do it as necessary. Because if we built in algorithms into this, it would be, okay, over 5%, we'll look at it. If we have retention problems with staff because salaries are outside of range, we'll look at it. I don't know all the mechanisms we would need, but I want to just make sure the board knows that if we do it, CPI is a guidance for that. It's not the last thing we have to do. And I think trigger mechanisms would be like, if you have a concern about retention or the board or Chris says, hey, we're having retention problems now. I don't think we have that problem yet because I think we're compensated very well, at least based on the data we've received back.
So why can't the policy be in you? Why can't the policy just say that the board will look at the cost
The
of
board
living
may
increase?
look at,
May look at.
can
Just say
consider,
may
they don't
look
have to,
at
but we can.
Cost of living increase as determined by CPI for Riverside County, period. Go
That's
ahead.
that's a logical trigger.
I mean, based on the conversations that we're having and maybe some misunderstanding amongst directors, I would recommend to send this back to the policy committee and have them develop this even more and put those securities in place that will make everyone comfortable so that we can approve it. At the end, it's a policy. It's something that we can go back and revise in the future if it doesn't work. But I think that at this point, we should go back to the table and develop this a little bit better.
I just want to echo Director Dular's, because I have the same concerns, that I don't think an automatic COLA, no matter what, should be built in to increases, because the vast majority of people do not get a COLA. I get a merit pay raise every year. I don't get a COLA raise at all. And I think,
I don't get any of that either.
I don't really know anybody that I know who works that gets a COLA raise.
California Nurses
Well,
Association bargaining.
Yeah,
and
But we don't
got a
get that,
COLA
and
increase
most people
every
don't
year.
get it, but I agree for.
I
a
get
public-
Social Security COLA increase every year,
yeah, but that's built into
built
that
into
federal
it,
program.
right?
We're public servants. And to me, it sends a bad message if the people that we serve, especially those that are the most needy in this valley, are not getting that type of annual raise. We should not be getting that. as well. I do agree, though, that in extenuating circumstances, if it is
For sure.
huge, then that should be built in.
And I think that's the discretion of the board. I mean, I think if what you're saying, then we don't even need a policy at all, because then we'll just consider it as it comes up, because we haven't had one before this point. So with what you're saying is, then I would support just not having a policy and we just consider it as it becomes a problem. I was mostly worried about the future of the board, giving them the legal mechanisms to do it. So if we do make that increase of 10%, somebody could come back and say, well, what did you guys base that on? Well, we base it on our policy that we can go back and do this with CPI. It's not, oh, the board is now favorable to increase staff salaries. I just want very much a transparent operating mechanism that we can.
Yeah, and I think we need to have that. And
Sure.
That's why I agree with you.
That's fine. If you want to take it back, I'm good with that. That's how you need to do it.
Well, how about, oh, Chris had a comment.
So my comment is, you know, this is great deliberation, but honestly, it's this one key point with whether there's a percentage in there or not. And that was debated very heavily by both the policy and the F&A committee. And so my response to taking it back to committee, I don't think is going to resolve it, because I think I'm understanding that all the rest of the language is agreeable and understood. And it's about, and it's not about, I just want to clarify, staff isn't asking for a COLA. And sometimes the conversation I hear, it's like, you know, staff is asking for a COLA, and it's not. And staff doesn't want a COLA because it's not deserving or necessary. Now, because we do have the merit increase mechanism, the language that's been presented is to give us a mechanism to be able to consider something in the future when there are those abnormal kinds of situations where there's inflation, CPI increases, that we have a policy that we can follow to bring to the board and say, is this a time to consider? I don't think you're going to see CEO or staff coming with a request when the annual CPI is 2.3%. I mean, it's not going to happen, but this gives us a process to follow. And if the board chooses to put a percent in there, that's fine. You know, we'll do whatever with that. But to take it back to a committee, we can do that. It's just, I think we're going to be right back into the same conversation.
Just to address a question for the committee members. Were we just coming up with like language for this policy, or were we basing it off on another policy?
We've had other policies that we've used as samples.
Well, I can wordsmith. We want to take care of it now, but
There's no,
Yeah.
even though you're saying that there's nothing gained by it, but we're not looking at this must be adopted today. So I would propose that we send it back to committee and entertain the ideas that you have.
I'll give you some verbiage to the committee. Okay.
All right. So motion to
This came directly from a policy supported by ACHD and is used by other districts. So it's not anything that staff
We'll move approval to
Second.
send it back to committee.
Second.
What committee?
Policy committee, policy
Gotta
committee.
move on today.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Do you have to do roll call, Andrea?
Yes, please.
Yes, for each and every item.
No, it was in.
It wasn't
I think it was an action item.
This is action item. Thank you. Roll call,
But if
please.
you want to get public comment,
Oh, thank you. Public comments, please.
Roll call, please. Director Constantino. Yes. Director Shore.
No, you'll say.
Director Shore.
Present.
So is that a yes to table the item?
I
Yes.
voted present.
Okay, thank you. So, okay. Abstain, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's close enough. Abstain's okay.
Okay, thank you. Director Delara.
yes.
Director Locksley.
Yes.
Secretary Barraza.
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez. And President Rogers.
Yeah. Next, Legislative Policy Committee, Chairman Barraza.
Thank you. Chairwoman. So the draft meeting minutes are there. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Just a quick update. We invited staff members to our local legislative offices. So we had representatives from Congressman Raul Ruiz's office, Senator Ochoa Bo, Senator Padilla, Assembly Member Wallace and Gonzalez's office. Supervisor's office were not able to join, but they did send an update in writing. We had great conversations. They mostly gave us updates on like some of the work that they're doing and just some of like legislation that's going through the cycle at the moment. Some sort of direction given was that we were going to look into some of those bills and budget ask to support them. One of the budget asks from, if I'm not mistaken, Ochoa Bo's office was for the 211 program, which is something that we've done in the past, worked on in the past. So we're going to be supportive there. More than anything, it was for us, the purpose was to open those communications or create that relationship with our local legislative offices. So that was a great week, a great meeting with the say that they're welcome to come back to any of our committee meetings, but that we'll be sending out invitations like quarterly so that they can give us updates. On the bill is B588. Not sure if everybody here was able to watch the committee hearing. It was turned into a 2-year bill, which gives us the opportunity to continue working with the author and also committee members and try to develop this bill into something that can, get the support from committee members and other legislators. Do you guys have any questions?
Can you comment on that? From a legislative process, is that a good thing to have this move to 2 years? Is it tabled? Is it kind of like just being ignored?
A little bit of everything
Okay.
to some extent. But for us or for the author, it does give them or the author the opportunity to continue working on the bill rather than just having it be killed. We're dying committee and you just can't move the bill. And then the following year, you would have to, if you wanted to, you would have to reintroduce the bill and start all over. So as of now, this bill is parked in health committee. And so the goal would be to continue working with the committee. And if they have amendments for the bill, something that they'll be in agreement and moving it forward next, and that would not be until next year.
Is that something that we as a group could decide? Because I'm getting feedback just directly about, the current ER wait is about 12 hours. Doesn't matter what time of day, it's 12 hours. It just is, we can't see enough patients year round now. We used to cycle, it's not. So we've got to solve that problem here. I don't see anybody else opening up a new ER under the current policy guidelines of needing 24-hour inpatient care because it's just not possible to do that. So I think if you want to meet the medically underserved, I think we heard a little bit earlier about how people need access to care. I think we should push this forward. And I don't know the legislative process, but whatever we can do to support this, our community definitely needs.
So I was going to say the hearing did bring up a few concerns.
Well, there's going to be resistance from a free.
Absolutely. And then, having labor in opposition as well. And so my recommendation or what I've asked of our consultant is to get us meetings with them and then to continue meeting with the author's office or Senator Ochoa's office so that we can include within the language of the bill some of these securities or address the concerns of the opposition so that we can help move forward. At the end, what we're asking for the state to conduct this feasibility study to allow us so that we can learn if it's something that we can or cannot do within the state of California, because it's being done in other states, but we have no control over what's going on in other states, and we really don't know what like the reimbursement rates or if it's working or not. What we're asking is for the opportunity to determine if it's going to work within our state, and if that's the case, then of course we would. My recommendation would be to push legislation to actually create the certification of freestanding emergency departments, but at this point is asking the state to pay for that or conduct that feasibility study. Some of the other options are things that we've had in conversations. It's what if we have a third party pay for the study? At some point we had said, well, what if like the district pays for the study? And so I have concerns with that because I wouldn't want us to pay for a study that the legislature is not going to consider. So if that's a route that we would want to go, in the future, because that was one of the concerns, was like, why are we gonna spend money on this, which had a $1 million tech price, like, why are we gonna spend money on this if like it's not gonna move forward, or if it's not feasible? And so that was one of the concerns in opposition, is like, why are we gonna spend this money if it's not gonna work? Because it doesn't work somewhere else, it's not gonna work here. So what we're asking is for the opportunity to determine if whether or not it's going to work here. Because I mean, that feasibility study can come back and say, like, we just can't do it, it's not feasible, right? And so that would kind of be the end of it. But I think it's that opportunity. There's a lot of like different things that like we can brainstorm and work on, and that's what we're gonna be doing in the next few months with the author.
And I'd like to have our healthcare partners in the community comment from, I think, Desert Regional standpoint and Eisenhower, to see what just local support from them, what their thoughts on, or even having, I mean, they have a good feeling for the ER needs here. Go ahead.
Well, just from a high level standpoint, the letters of support that I was able to receive, obviously there was great support from Desert Care Network.
Sure.
When I reached out to Eisenhower, they declined.
Oh, well, good. So we did make that reach out. Thank you for that.
I think the nice thing about it going to a 2-year bill, it's to your point, is that we can get more support within the community. We can research other types of these that have worked, hopefully have worked in other states. And that, to Kimberly's point, is negate some of the opposition that we saw in that. So,
And had it not gone to the 2-year bill, this was an enlightening experience for me watching that committee meeting. I believe I understand that had it not gone to the 2-year bill, it probably would have died in committee.
It didn't have the support of the committee members.
Even the chair didn't have.
That chair was recommending a no, so that
They
in
didn't know
itself.
about it either. That's, well, congratulations on getting it to our heads.
And I think, a key element here, and I learned that politics is politics, because, even our local Senator Padilla was not going to be in favor of it in committee. Around that we need to do involved with our lobbyists and, working both angles in Sacramento as well as here to gain that support.
And get more co-sponsors, maybe of the Democratic leanings. Go ahead.
Would we have gotten, when you said that our local senator was not supportive and the chair was not supportive, was there any inkling of how they were going to vote before that hearing, or did you know that he was probably not going to support it? You knew
Yeah,
that?
and our consultant and also Senator Trouble had a conversation with the committee chair the night before, which is typical. And so we were, I guess, Senator Trouble was hoping to get recommendations or amendments to the bill so that it could move forward. The chair could not come up with any recommendations, so it was one of those things where I'm letting you keep it as a 2-year bill and continue working on it. The chair does have some like medical background. If I'm not mistaken, as an EMT, it did not seem that she understood the context or the scenario or what goes on within like rural areas. And so it's a pretty interesting hearing. If you did not watch, I'll send the link so that you can go back and watch it. Some of the concerns that they did raise, one of them was that we wouldn't want a self-standing ER be competition to a hospital, where we're saying it wouldn't be a competition. It would most likely be within one same healthcare system, and they'd be working together instead of,
And ask the ER
competition.
attendings if they want competition when there's 300 people waiting. They're like, yes, we want competition. I think a lot of it's gonna be around education, to be honest, because when you bring it up, there's not many people that understand freestanding ERs because it is a new idea. It was like ambulatory surgery centers 10 years ago. Nobody understood that.
And also a very strong opposition was SEIU. And so I know that they have concerns with like staff ratios. And so I've asked, for a consultant to meet with them and see if there's any, because if they continue, I don't see this as the, yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Any other board discussion? Chris?
And one of the concerns expressed too is that the difference between an ER billing versus an urgent care bill. So a lot of patients would go to the ER and be billed at an ER rate, which is like $2,100 or something versus like a $200 rate if they'd have gone to an urgent care. And I thought Dr. Kasanov was fabulous, who was the director at JFK Emergency Department. And he indicated that, you know, we have the same thing even at our current ERs, where patients that come in, they don't realize or recognize that they could go to an urgent care facility for what they need service for. And so, you know, that's not going to be erased by just having the ER, standalone ER versus an ER. So, you know, there's talking about education. I mean, there's an education process that would need to be part of the patient community. But if you're having a medical emergency, somebody's going to go to whatever the closest facility is, whether it's ER or.
Well, and part of the problem, I'm sure our hospital people can address that as well, but in my experience, part of the problem is people don't realize what's urgent and what's emergency. And my last hospital where I was employed, Alameda County Health Center Hospital, we had a triage as you came in. And if you were urgent care, you went to a green chair. And if you were an emergency, you went to a red chair. So, you know, they were able to accommodate everybody. So, you know, and perhaps in our long range planning, we can look at addressing urgent care needs versus emergency services in that part of the county. Any more discussion by the board? Any discussion by those in attendance? Hearing none, we'll move on. Strategic Planning Committee.
Skip finance people.
And we have, oh, thank you.
Program of finance.
And program, I'm moving up too fast. Program Committee.
So this month, we didn't have a meeting, we have a quorum. So we canceled the meeting.
May I ask if there were any applications that you would have considered if you had one?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Sorry, I'm biting my mouth. Were there applications that were hurt by not having a quorum, that were delayed?
Yes, Planned Parenthood.
Okay, thank you.
Finance Committee. Langston.
Comments?
It's informational, there's no action.
But one I'd like to comment if I may.
Yes.
So there's the minutes there that are for review, but I just wanted to give an update on the agenda item 5B, which is related to employee contribution and the 401A, which is the employer match. And so for years and years, we have been with Principal Financial Group, who has been taking care of all of the services for the retirement plan. So they've handled the investment assets, they've done all the administration services, and they've also updated our plan documents related to IRS, et cetera. So somewhat recently, we were informed by Principal that they would be no longer doing the plan document updates. So staff's been working with our financial management consultant, to identify how we can support and make sure that we're covering all of the services. So we had to go out to a third-party administrator that would take care of doing the plan documents for a governmental agency. And surprising to me, there's not that many third-party administrators that do the government plans like we have. So we're able to identify one, and we thought then that we could just have them do the work of the plan documents, but they don't do that. They want all the other services that Principal is currently doing. So we looked at then splitting up and unbundling the services, and then just having Principal do the management of the assets. That actually proved to be extremely costly for the district as well as the plan participants. So then we looked at what other organizations that are reputable in that environment that we can have trust and confidence in to manage our resources as a asset manager, and then have a third-party administrator that would manage the other services, including the plan documents. So we did come up with two other organizations that we didn't present for approval by the finance committees, but to get feedback from the committee if they're acceptable to the recommendation that staff considered a census as the asset manager and an organization with the acronym EGPS, where they work together. So they work very well together. So it's not like one organization's completely not understanding what the other is doing. And so it was proposed then that we bring back to the June Finance Committee as well as the board the contracts and documents and process that would be required for a census and EGPS to transition to from our current program. So it's just an informational item just to keep you on the loop as to how that process is working.
Thank you. Any comments by board members? Any comments by those in attendance? Moving on to Strategic Planning Committee.
Yeah, so we talked about the proposals that were submitted to facilitate the 5-year strategic plan. Staff had recommended allowing them to have more time to work with some of the proposals. Board member Delara brought up some really great points about scope issues, especially in the higher price one. The range of costs concerns a couple of us, I think actually all three of us, on a couple of them. So we agreed that we would just have staff take the time to actually go back and work with those organizations and bring those back to us. It delays our implementation a little bit, but it still keeps us on the same timeline that we wanted to have the strategic action plan in place by next year. And we felt too that really starting the meat of the action planning, especially the board workshops, would be more beneficial when everyone is in town. And we know few people take time off during the summer. So that was our recommendation. Happy to answer any questions.
Right, and is staff clear on
They're
the
very
direction
clear. I
to
think.
take?
We tried to make them as clear as possible. So.
I have some.
Go ahead.
When it's my turn?
It's your turn.
Oh, okay, thank you. I spent a lot of time looking at particularly the first proposal, and I have some very, very serious concerns about Guidehouse. And not that I don't know the organization, other than among my conclusions is this is the kind of healthcare consulting firm that's international. And if you look closely inside of their document, they talk about having 18,000 employees, 50 offices, on and on and on and on. So I would really suggest to my colleagues on the board to take the time to look very, very closely at this document. It's a preliminary document, and granted, staff has a lot more work to do to make this reasonable, because in the final analysis, this is the kind of consulting firm that deals with tenant. It deals with the large multi-hospital systems in the United States. It's international in scope. It's on 3 continents. And although they allege that they have experience in health districts, you're talking about the princess and the pea, so to speak. We are very, very small in the grand scheme of an organization that's suggesting what it's doing here. Now, it's not my job to guide the staff in this context, but I did discuss the matter with Chris, and I would like to suggest some thought process from any and all organizations that are considering engaging with us. I think the first step has to be understanding their strategic view of the next 10 years. And I know I've been harping on a futurist, and although there's no traction in the board for any interest like that, but until and unless we are educated, and maybe the only way to become educated is through presentations by the competitors as to what their strategic plan is. What's the framework in which they're going to conduct a detailed, comprehensive planning process that results in a strategic plan that we embrace? I would strongly suggest that we look at the credentials of the individuals they're proposing, not their pictures. I want to know what their backgrounds are. I want to know their experience. I want to know an organization that deals with multi-billion-dollar corporations, how they recognize an organization of our size and scope, and what their experiences are specifically with hospital districts. It's one thing to say we've done 6. It's another thing to say we've done 600. It's another thing to say that we have individuals that lead that division. It's another thing to show me pictures of individuals with their titles. And rather than spend a lot more time on this, I really would implore my colleagues on the board to look very closely at this preliminary document. They're suggesting a lot of activities that we've already done. We don't need them to tell us what the community needs are. We engaged someone to do that relatively recently, and have a fairly good idea as to where that's going. So again, I'd be more than happy to make myself, and parenthetically, in my consulting practice, I engaged in a lot of strategic planning at the same level that, if you recall, Steve Valentine, when he took us through the strategic planning process in the last cycle. So it's at that level of personal competency that I understand the strategic planning process. And I'm very concerned about a document that has a cost profile that approaches $900,000, because to say excluding travel, with a baseline cost of $600,000, it's going to approach $900,000 when it's all said and done, especially if people are coming from Australia to discharge an engagement for us. So I'm very cynical about this meeting our needs. It's a very sophisticated organization, overly sophisticated, frankly, for what I consider our needs to be. But I don't want to disqualify them. I really want to challenge staff to get underneath the propaganda, so to speak. Find out who's going to do the work. How much are the travel costs? Where are they coming from? On and on, and what are the duplications to work that we've already paid for in other aspects of our monthly and yearly activities as a board. I have no bias for them. I have no bias other than having read their what I consider a boilerplate presentation that's designed to wow and doesn't really give you substance when you look closely at the content of what's in here. And I hope I'm not insulting anybody's intelligence. Surely it's well beyond the scope of our needs, in my opinion. But I would defer to the collective wisdom of the board when the staff comes back with detail. And if it takes a little extra and it delays our process, Greg, with all due respect, I'd rather do that than be on the hook to the community for $900,000 for a strategic planning process. I'd have trouble representing that as a fiduciary to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Lady had a comment?
Thank you, Madam President. No insult received. So I first acknowledge that I appreciate the comments that you have made, but rest assured that during our committee, those are comments that we shared, that we commented on, that we had dialogue with our staff. So we just wanted to kind of give you an update, but rest assured that everything that you covered has our I guess, thoughts and our concerns and our expectations have been communicated. So thank you for your input.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments in turn.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from those in attendance? Can we just take no action?
There's already been.
Well, I think the action is to continue with what the committee recommended.
Oh, yeah, for staff to
To continue to work on
continue to
this.
work on.
It's okay, so do we need a motion to that effect?
I will, since it's an action item, please.
Second.
Roll call?
Director Prescott,
Yes.
Director Shore,
Yes,
Director Delara,
Yes.
Director Logston.
Yes.
Secretary Barraza,
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez.
Yes.
President Rodriguez.
And if I may add one more comment with it, is that we're planning to do the top 4 out of the 5 that were of the original presentation to the committee. Those will be the 4 that we will focus on, clearing up the scope of work issues, see if we can get reduction of cost, et cetera. So we'll have the questions answered that you're providing here. So thank you.
Last on the agenda is Coachella Valley Association of Governments progress report.
So in your packet is the first quarter of 2025, the quarterly report from CVAG regarding the CV link. We do have Murray Ponce that's present and available if you should have any questions from the board. I appreciate you being here, Murray.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions, comments from the board? Any questions, comments from those in attendance?
I have a
Go
question.
ahead.
So my question to you is where we're at now, is there anything that is of concern with moving forward to get the full utilization and full presentation to the community? Is there any concerns or challenges that you're facing at this time?
I would say the number one challenge we have to complete the full project is we're working on the area, if you know where the Palm Springs Visitor Center is. Well, that goes with the State Highway 111, and getting that permit through Caltrans has been more than a little challenge. So that's the real technical thing, that getting that last permit done and coordinating that with the city of Palm Springs, et cetera. So that's the rest of it now is just putting the other pieces together for all you folks that are involved with contracts, getting the punch list done, getting everybody fulfilling the needs. And the other comment to pass along is our goal was to have an opening on the project around this time of year, but obviously we're now into heat and the project's taken longer than we hoped. So all being well, sometime between mid-October and mid-November, we're going to have a mini celebration instead of one grand one in each city. So each city and their staff can recognize what it is to their city and how we're talking about Esperanza Park, how it ties into CV Link and Cathedral City, how it ties in with the arts and music line looking to. So there's going to be individual presentations for CV Link all the way down to Coachella, Indio, and all across the valley.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Some questions. I'm new to this, so I know that we supported this in the past. What was the budget for the total project that you guys had? The cost? What was the total estimated cost to build the whole thing?
At the beginning,
Yeah.
which was 2000, it was 100 million.
How much have we spent so far?
Well, I'll do it this way. I'll get you to the end here.
Well, I don't know if we're gonna get there. It could be like, but anyways, yeah, you
Yeah,
can.
when we're done.
I'll ask you then where we're at.
It'll be closer to 150.
Why was there overruns?
Well, the contractor world that we operated in, if you can imagine 5 to 8 years ago, I started with them as a volunteer 10 years ago because I'm passionate about this project. Of course. And so at that point in time, the bidding we could get, 2015, 16, people were killing themselves to get these projects. And so a lot of it You mentioned inflation.
How many change orders have they issued that you guys have had to pay for? That were
For
based
different
on-
contracts,
Yeah, that's how they,
it's been a big part of it.
I wish somebody would publish the data on how city contracts get taken advantage of, because this is classic. Underbid, receive work, massive change orders, 50% overrun. It's just how it works, happens all the time. This isn't the first time. And I just wanted to bring it up in a public forum because Coachella Valley has been taken advantage of. You know, they bid on this work. They can't deliver on it, so they ask for more money to continue doing it, rather than just telling you what it's actually gonna cost. And it's just frustrating because, you know, that's an extra $50 million that our community needed for other things. And while this is gonna be great, and I like the idea of it, you know, this also needs to be brought up to the state level and to Caltrans. Every day they wait to approve a permit that's silly is costing X amount of dollars. And that should be published, that should be put in public places so that everybody knows that whoever's holding on to these permits are costing our residents X amount of dollars, right? That's more people on the job, more delays on work, more material sitting, not being used, be done. And it's just ridiculous that you're 50% over. I would be fired from it's not you, but I'm just saying in general, I would be fired if I was spent $50 million more than I was supposed to. Eric, if we overspent the budget and he allowed us to do it, he'd have a problem too, because his job's to make sure we're on budget. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that whole experience?
Well, the only thing I can assure you is most of the funding here is very little of it is local. It's all, most of it all is federal and state.
Still tax dollars though,
Yeah, but-
still our money.
Let me finish.
Yeah, sure.
So all of that information, we have to file because we're getting funded. And I'm paying for these grant funds. All of that is a matter of public record.
Yeah.
How much the change orders were and how much it took that. It's not like I just want to assure you,
Well, I
none
know
of that is buried.
Oh, I know it's not
It's
buried,
all
but
out there.
it is buried because we're in an information overload system. And the people that live locally, did anybody here who lives here know any of this till today? No. That's what I mean. We live in information overload. So yes, it's all public, but it's not readily accessible to the common people. And that's why I brought it up today in this forum. So at least there's a place to capture it. And some people here can know and go back to their communities to talk about how these things are problematic. Because that's $50 million that could have went to support more food instead of cost overruns that really weren't cost overruns. They were already planned change orders and how work is done. There's nothing against you. I'm all for it. But this is a community forum that the community members need to know how this stuff happens.
Hey, Don, you want to build another bike path? It's only $100 million and we're in for 10 million. We can do another bike path.
Arthur, you missed.
No.
It was 150.
Oh, excuse me.
Well,
Okay.
the district's contribution to the CV link is 10 million. And so just to announce that this will be our last installment payment in June. And so our final payment on the $10 million commitment will be satisfied.
I have nothing to complain about then.
What's your comment, Art?
I'll have to find something.
You can complain about it.
Okay. Any more comments? Any comments from those in attendance?
Oh, I want to say something.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Oh,
I mean,
please say
hi.
your name.
Oh, Melissa Asadera. I'm here with the Antennas on the Casinas. I also run my own organization in Los Angeles called Polo's Pantry. We do a lot of incubating community-based projects, but my city is just like, I hear you on these vultures coming in to like do development, because a lot of people don't know what's going on. And I'm just gonna like say what Millie said and what she said over here. There's a lot of, yeah, thank you. I appreciate all the comments that you guys are sharing, but there's no urgency. People are dying on our streets. When I started organizing in LA, 3 people were dying on the streets of Los Angeles. Now there's 9 because they're houseless. There's no food and there's no housing, and there's this huge bureaucratic like system to get someone housed. We have created our own system to get people housed, and it's not the government.
Sure.
Even LASA, who's supposed to be the agency housing people, are corrupt. And so we're asking you, like right now, I'm pleading to you as healthcare workers. I am also an activist scholar from UCLA. We are studying the food system and it's gonna crash soon. And, you know, doing this work with Alianza is really powerful because farm workers are the backbone of our food system. It is ridiculous that they themselves cannot afford food. I have watched Millie and all of this brave women here for 5 years. There was a flooding that happened, I think, in 2022.
Yeah.
We activated in literally in an hour. Millie called me from LA. She said, hey, we need to do a food distribution. We were going like past like police barricades to get into people's homes because they couldn't access food or even go to the distribution. And the only reason why that was able to happen is because Millie's organization has been doing this work for decades. And you cannot buy that kind of infrastructure. What I'm saying is the great work that you guys have done was like granting money to Desert Health to us. That is actually like even cost effective for what actually is what like the cost of actually taking care of people. Y'all want some stats? Let me give you some stats right now on like we're looking at food as medicine. And let's see. Like poor nutrition is the only drive, like it's a
Excuse
huge
me,
driver.
Madam President, may I ask if this item is related to the topic that we're talking, or we already moving on to the
I
next
think we're
item?
gonna talk about food distributions.
Okay, so
That's on the next
we're not
meeting.
there yet.
Okay.
So hold on, there'll be a time.
Huh?
Yeah, there'll be a time that we'll call on you when we get to food distribution.
Okay, but I just wanted to say that all of this is connected. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that.
You were just tagging on to what Dr. Marks was saying about.
I'm ready for you, but we have to wait now, so it's okay.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, any more discussion? Are there any board member comments?
No, it's not. Yeah, sorry.
And thank you. Any board member comments? Can we adjourn for 5 minutes and come back to foundation agenda?
Sure.
Adjourn for 5 minutes.
Arthur, I'm gonna turn off the camera and just while we adjourn, okay?